This year, the lectionary offer us for the first week in Lent the second account of the creation story with the character of Eve at its center. And to be very honest with you, writing a sermon on this topic is somehow challenging, especially the day following the International Women's Day and during a week plagued with scandals at the University of Ottawa. Finding an interesting and appropriate approach to begin a reflection on this passage is difficult because in the Bible, in the first letter to Timothy, it says that Eve was responsible for sin entering into this world. When the philosopher Philo of Alexandria stated that the serpent approached Eve rather than Adam because women are naturally more influenced by their emotions than are men. When the 15th century document Malleus Maleficarum cites that women were, from their creation, imperfect and lustful beings who pose grave danger to men, whence today's preachers still exhort women to dress modestly and to be obedient to their husband. I have searched a relevant way to begin this sermon. And probably the best thing I have found is the following clip that I would like to show you now.
I think the image of Eve is so ingrained in our society, and it's almost gotten so prevalent that you can't see it because it's everywhere. You see Eve in advertising, you see Eve in media, whether it's billboards or television ads or radio spots, but I think to this day, women still struggle with that baggage that's been put on them. But I think today there has been a lot of advancement thanks to women stepping out and writing and speaking and starting conversation about the story. Understanding the harm, the misogyny, the miscommunications that's come out of that ancient story. I'm struck by the woman in the hard hat. She looks like she's dressed up in her daddy's construction outfit. That's such a contrast to the image next to it. She's powerful, she's in a powerful stance, she has a serious look on her face and is obviously quite competent. You know, you got to wonder, who would you rather build your house? The blonde woman on the left, contrasted to the other image, raises for me issues of gender and race. I mean, my first question is, could they have found a whiter model? I mean, this woman needs some vitamin D. The woman on the right is obviously a teacher, but in a powerful position, a woman who is empowering young women, inspiring young women. The photo of the woman holding the drill, I really only have one word: really. I mean, really? The image on the right, however, is a woman that's portrayed as strong, competent. She's standing maybe in her own house, doing work on her own house. Frankly, I wish that woman on the right would take her drill and chase off the woman on the left. I am so disappointed, but not shocked on these images of women in faith. I mean, that's it. The only image that we have of women as leaders in the church are like a schoolmarm in Little House on the Prairie. And that's so sad to me. And I think that that's a manifestation of a reality in the church, a reality in religion as a whole, that women aren't invited to share the gifts that they've been given. I wish, and I would love to see women imaged as leaders of faith in all the different gifts that they bring. Maybe you'd see a woman in a powerful position in the pulpit preaching a message and seeing the people reacting, hearing, receiving that gift. You might see a woman laughing hysterically with some colleagues within the church. You might see a woman studying, reading the Torah or the Bible. All of the different aspects of ministry that should be represented, as opposed to the very narrow area that women are always relegated to, which is maybe a children's ministry or maybe making the lunch. And that's it. And I want to see a broad-based image. I want to see all the gifts that women bring.
Too often we assume that we know exactly what is the story of Eve and the serpent in the Garden of Eden, because it's the story that most of us grew up with. We think the story is about the fall of humanity. It's about turning our back to God. It's about the devil leading us to make bad decisions. It's about evil coming into God's perfect creation. It's about temptation, deception. It's about Eve seducing Adam into disobeying God. Ministers and theologians have taught, preached, and analyzed this story for centuries, and almost all of them came to the conclusion that Adam and Eve, what they did was a sin, and it still affects us today. And still, when we take just a little more time to think about this story, we discover that it is as simple as we might think. We can discover many layers into this story. For example, this morning's story is about God expecting humankind to live in a golden present. Because when God placed Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, God asked them to cultivate and care for a very beautiful place we often idealize. In this place there's supposed to be no sin, no pain, no fear, no alienation. God tells them that they can stay there, they can enjoy this place, they can eat all the fruits of all the trees, except the ones from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Adam and Eve could stay forever in a close, static, and totally divinely controlled paradise without facing any sort of responsibility, as long as they do exactly what God says. Everything will be fine if humankind follow to the letter the rule established by God. And there's no room for renegotiation the terms of the contract. No other alternatives will be accepted. It's God's way or the highway, and quite literally in this story. This is also a coming of age story. Only if a few parents would honestly admit it, we don't like seeing our children growing up, becoming more independent, making decisions on their own. Because when they are small, when they are small baby, well, they follow us everywhere. They listen to us, to everything we say, and they're just happy, curling and holding in our arms. But as soon as they start growing up, children start to challenge what we say. They listen to other people, and they form their own opinions. I know, I'm discovering this these days. Well, God made Adam and Eve, and God could be considered Adam and Eve's parent. And God behaved like parent does usually. Do this, don't go there, don't touch that. Why? Because I said so. Because if you do, you will die. That's why you cannot touch it. But Eve was evolving. She was growing up. She was ready to make her own choices, and sometimes growing up implies taking risk. Maturity often comes through a large range of experience, and the value and the importance of honesty, of courage, of compassion has to be learned for oneself, sometimes the hard way. Disobeying or going against one's parents' will is difficult, but a necessary step one must do in order to become an adult. This story is about a quest for knowledge, which is not an intellectual knowledge, but also an experiential knowledge, a relational knowledge. We cannot stay all our lives in a house of glass or atop on every tower and expect to have a real understanding of this world. We cannot dissociate knowledge and day-to-day living. We might know exactly how to split an atom in order to create energy, but we also need to be aware that it produces radioactive waste that will be around for millions of years. We might know which gene cause a specific defect in the human body, but we also need to be aware of the danger of eugenic theories. In the case of this morning's story, we clearly know what Eve wanted. She did not want to entrap Adam. She did not want to have a snake curling suggestively around her body. She wants knowledge. She wants to experience it for herself. She does not want to be told. She wants to know firsthand the difference between good and evil. And after tasting the fruit, she and Adam indeed gained that knowledge. This is a story about choices. In the ancient Near East, snakes were associated not with evil, with sin or death, but with wisdom and the human potential for discernment. So the snake come to Eve and offer her a choice. You can stay forever as you are and never change, or you can take a bite and be transformed. And here there's no bullying, there's no peer pressure, there's no deception, because everything the serpent tells Eve turned to be true. Your eyes will be open, and you will be like God, knowing God good from evil. As we grow up, as we evolve, as we engage this world, we are constantly confronted by choices. We can either speak up or remain silent. We can use our resources to exploit others or to be generous. We can come to church on Sunday morning or go out doing our grocery. And all of those choices are there in front of us. And we cannot blame those who are pointing them to us. And we cannot live a lifetime of regret of what we have done or refrain from doing. Some difficult decisions cannot be postponed forever. In order to grow, to evolve, to go forward in life, we need to make hard choices that always has consequences. This story is about the courage to challenge the status quo. Adam and Eve were expected to stay inside the Garden of Eden and to care for it and to protect all things forever. Yesterday's reality was the same than today's reality, and it will be exactly the same tomorrow. And no one could imagine some change in this pattern until the snake shows up and offers other possibilities to consider. Of course, continuing the same course would have been easier for Eve, as it's the case for us, because she was comfortable, she knew the rules, she knew exactly what to expect in the future. And yet saying the same forever does not seem to appeal to her. She needs more. She wants to exercise more responsibilities, and she chooses to embrace a new reality, even if it means to say goodbye to what served her so well in the past. She makes the choice to make her own mistakes. She decides to stand on her own feet and to discover what she was called to do and to be. For centuries, Eve has been presented as the reason why everything went bad after God created the world, a little like Yoko Ono is presented as the reason the Beatles broke up. And I believe this is not the point of the story. there's something else to be learned here. We always have the option to blindly follow the rules and to try to be happy within them. Or we can try to grow up, to stand on our own feet, to become adults, and to constantly challenge accepted answers. And the choice between good and evil, what is right and wrong, creativity or destruction, all those choices is always ours to make. And as we will journey to this time of Lent together, these are the questions we will try to answer for ourselves. Do we want to constantly repeat the same old patterns, cliches, and ways to be the church together? Or do we want to challenge ourselves, accept to go where we're not necessarily comfortable, and to prepare ourselves for the transformation of Easter morning? Are we ready to embrace an adult faith? Are we ready to explore our call to be Christian? Amen.